March 21st, 1981, Greensboro, North Carolina. One last 7 a.m. session in the cold, damp air of that filthy hockey arena. Alone, she finds the solitude of being the only one in the building at this ungodly hour somehow perfect. It's just her and the ice. Given how this day could potentially play out, nothing about it will be remotely normal. But that doesn't seem to bother 17-year-old Alice Sullivan one bit. She knows that despite her anxiety and excitement, nothing can dampen her hopes. Today is the day she's looked forward to, obsessed over, and feared for the last 3 months. Ready or not, at 6:15 p.m., Alice will audition for one of the largest touring ice show companies in the world. Lost in thought, Alice stands at the boards looking out through the glass. Every ounce of who she is couldn't possibly want anything to be different. Yes, it might be 7 a.m., and yes, this rundown old hockey arena might be unbearably cold, but in her imagination she's somewhere else entirely. Stepping forward, pressing her full body weight down on the large steel latch, Alice pries open the heavy door to the ice. It releases with a loud snap that echoes around her. Slowly, and no rush, Alice begins to stroll the perimeter, appreciating the complete isolation. She knows full well that no one's watching. She's embraced by the rink that's seen her grow from toddler to teen. That very same rink which through the years has seen her at her very best and her absolute worst. This is her one last opportunity to connect with the dream of a little girl that began under these very same old rusted beams. Detached in every way from the outside world, the arena is mute, but for the sound of her blades cutting deep as she builds speed and flies across the vast open ice. Effortlessly, she reaches, arches her back into a beautiful Ina bower, soaring at full speed like a boat skimming above choppy waters, the wind filling its sails. Alice knows that today is her chance, most likely her only chance. Giving a strong audition later this afternoon is her key to unlocking everything in life she's ever wanted. The moment, her moment, is now. The end of March. Just another Saturday for the largest touring ice show company in the country. Rowley, North Carolina. Another hectic 3-show day, each and every one 2.5 hours in length. 3 shows in one day. A ridiculous schedule that somehow always seems to fit perfectly on paper, but in reality leaves performers stretched far beyond what they can handle. Struggling to maintain any grasp on sanity, each performer digs deep, individually and collectively searching for a way to somehow make it through just one more fucking show. Overwhelmed, the mind switches off, and artistic dementia ensues. Pupils dilate, and a zombie-esque presence takes over. Although every face smiles, never revealing the truth that lies under 2 inches of heavy makeup and lashes, the blinding lights, the music, and the choreo take demonic possession. The brain is temporarily locked in a scary state of nothingness until the final bows. Then comes the euphoria that, at least for now, it's over. I can relax. I have a smoke. I can finally take off these goddamn skates. Tina, Denise, Leslie, Michelle, Alice, Hannah, Tracy. A slight pause. David. Alice looks towards a man standing at the edge of the ice. The sound of his voice has replaced the thunderous applause that earlier had echoed through the large, now empty venue. She reaches down for her skate guards. Then, taking a deep breath, she tries to shake off her overwhelming anxiety. You will be fine, dear. Her mother's presence at her side and her attempt at reassurance only adds to Alice's agitation. She tries to collect her thoughts as she joins the small group of hopefuls who are surrounded by an almost visible sense of fear. They make their way across the open ice towards a man whose face is buried in papers on a clipboard. A lanky character, dressed in a company tracksuit. He is of average looks, short, and has a bushy mustache that fails to mask an obvious aura of femininity. The man nods and smiles automatically at Alice as she approaches. Then his eyes widen as he registers the 5'2", 105-pound dark-haired beauty standing right in front of him. Crap, he thinks to himself. Right look. Too bad she's so short. Then he shifts his focus back towards the group and introduces himself as Dennis, the men's line captain. As other young hopefuls gather round, Dennis's eyes glance distractedly towards a group of people gathered high up in the stands. Alice follows his gaze. The onlookers all seem at ease, as if this massive steel and concrete space offers them a sense of normal. She assumes they're skaters from the show. Unexpectedly, Alice finds herself beginning to wonder about the lives they live. To me, this is so amazing, so unbelievable, Alice thinks. But what do they feel when they look up at this enormous set? Do they feel anything? I wonder how they really feel about skating. Much to her amazement, Alice for the very first time begins to ask herself whether wanting this job and having this job, this life, might turn out to be two different things entirely. As more cast members gather high up in the seats under the rafters, Alice turns her attention back to Dennis, the mustache with the clipboard. She can sense his exhaustion and abruptly realizes that while for her this audition is a life-defining moment, for him it's probably nothing more than a hassle, just one more thing he has to do today. "Okay, folks," Dennis begins. "I know from my own experience standing in your shoes this process is nerve-wracking." Dennis's words, meant to put the group at ease, fail entirely. But he continues, giving a speech he's clearly delivered 100 times before. "This is what's known in the industry as a cattle call. No one has priority. We're looking for strong skating, high-level performance, lots of confidence." Alice and the rest follow Dennis towards the set and stand in a line behind him, beginning to learn a fairly simple step sequence. "Shoulders back," Dennis yells, and without saying the words, he gestures flamboyantly for them to proudly show off the boobs. "Right," thinks Alice, "I get it." She smiles and closes her eyes, remembering the show she'd seen 2 days earlier. The lights, the costumes, the music, the roar from the crowd. She imagines herself among the performers and skates the steps perfectly on count. Dennis, stunned by the quality of Alice's skating, momentarily can't take his eyes off of her. A voice from behind the set interrupts them. Sorry, I'm coming. Sorry, that took way longer than it should have." The voice belongs to a beautiful woman about 30 years old. Also dressed in a company tracksuit, wearing full show makeup and enormous fake lashes, she quickly skates out from backstage and down the ice towards them. Her smile is automatic and tinged with fatigue. Dennis introduces her as Tara, the ladies' line captain. "Where are we?" she asks, looking at him. Dennis scans his clipboard carefully as if searching for the right answer. "North Carolina?" he replies half questioningly, half sarcastically. Tara glares at him, giving him a look that could only be interpreted as, "Fuck off." Dennis smirks and fills her in on what they've already covered. Tara picks up where Dennis has left off and begins taking the small group through the next phase of the audition. Though she doesn't realize it at the time, Alice is standing at the pivotal threshold on which every performer, famous or struggling, has found themselves. A lifetime of perseverance and sacrifice all hinge on this exact moment, one they will most certainly never forget. Alice is in a place and time within her own unique journey where a doorway into chance can open onto almost anything. 20 minutes later, Alice finds herself sitting back next to her mother. Is that it, she thinks, unlacing her skates? She jumps when a hand touches her shoulder. It's Dennis. He whispers quietly, "You're Alice, right?" She nods. "Would you mind joining Tara and I at the coffee stand when you get your skates off? We'd like to chat with you for a little, ask you a few questions." Alice nods and her heart begins to pound. Not wanting to keep him or anyone else waiting, she tosses her skates into her bag, slush and dirt still dripping from the blades, and races over to Dennis and Tara. Knowing that in all the excitement Alice has probably forgotten her own name, let alone theirs, Dennis and Tara quickly reintroduce themselves. Together with David, the lone boy in the audition, they begin leading the way past the front row ice-level VIP seating. As they walk, show lights above the ice begin springing to life, illuminating the imposing 30-foot set which towers majestically in front of them. Stepping past the players' bench and under the massive stadium seating, they follow a tight corridor which branches off into two seemingly endless hallways. The belly of the beast. They quickly pass by open doors that lead into dressing rooms, then by rows and rows of freight containers filled with beaded costumes and feathered headpieces. Up close, the pieces look surprisingly worn and seedy. Come showtime, this place must be a madhouse, Alice thinks to herself. They turn a corner and walk through yet another doorway, past a heavy black curtain. Waiting for them are tables, chairs, and a counter buried under a buffet of nothing even remotely healthy. It's obvious a place set up for cast and crew to relax and unwind. Through an open door, a female voice grabs Tara's attention. A thick Russian accent launches into a tirade over how one of Tara's girls dared stand far too close in the finale of that afternoon's show. Tara grimaces and shoots Dennis a look that says, "You take care of David and Alice. I'll deal with this crazy bitch." While Tara quickly speeds towards the door, Dennis hustles Alice and David to one of the empty tables. Glancing over her shoulder back towards the irate Russian's voice, Alice sees Tara planted firmly in front of a tall, slender redhead in full show makeup, and not much else. Her hair is so red, so bright that it almost seems to crackle with its own electricity. The woman is incredibly beautiful. Perfect, in fact. Her half-naked body leans emphatically towards Tara as she states her disdain for some incompetent chorus girl. "Fuck," Dennis swears, then looks at Alice and David and calmly apologizes. "I left my clipboard by the ice. Don't move. I'll be right back." Dennis rushes off, his plastic skate guards squeaking against the tiled floor. Alice and David glance awkwardly at each other, and then their eyes dart about the room, excitedly soaking up all the sights and sounds and happenings. They're all a part of normal backstage life. A very loud thud startles them.
"Fuck, I hate this place."
Caught by surprise, David and Alice's eyes are drawn to a table on the other side of the room. The voice belongs to a tall, muscular blonde man sitting by himself, rifling through a brown burlap bag. Alice stares at the bag curiously, wondering about its contents. "What?" he demands in a thick Irish accent, glaring at them. Embarrassed, both Alice and David instantly drop their eyes towards the floor. Feeling ashamed for failing to mind their own business in a place they're merely guests. Suddenly, from another table, a loud female voice shouts aggressively, "Calm down. It's not their fault you're such a dumb shit." The voice belongs to a tall, thin older woman, seemingly in her late 50s, who sports a mohawk and large tattoos. Her edgy punk rock appearance is intimidating, but she smiles at Alice. Standing up, she wanders over towards them, plunks her butt on top of their table, and puts one foot up on Dennis's now empty chair. Alice's eyes widen as she finds her face only inches away from the unusual creature's old, worn t-shirt that screams, "Sex Pistols, U.S. Tour, 1978. "That's what happens when you two-time a gal on the road," the woman begins, tactlessly looking back at the frustrated Irishman's direction. "Nothing sorrier than a jerk who disrespects one of us broads. Karma's a bitch, ain't that right, Johnny boy?" Awkward tension fills the air as the man looks up but says nothing. The woman turns to Alice and David. "Jonathan over here made the stupid mistake of hooking up with the company accountant." She pauses and shakes her head. "Then he humiliated her by banging some slutty hotel clerk. What city was it, Johnny boy? Toledo? Dayton? Columbus?" "Fuck off," he replies under his breath. Still baffled, Alice and David watch as Jonathan carefully lifts roll after roll of coins from the burlap bag. The old woman continues talking to Alice and David as though Jonathan is invisible. "Anyways, dummy over here," she nods in Jonathan's direction, "thought he could cheat and not get caught." She leans conspiratorially towards Alice and David. "Here's the thing. Johnny boy thought he'd romance the one person who handles our pay." Another pause. A big smirk lights up the older woman's face. "On the road, we're paid in hard cash, and today's payday. For Jonathan, that now means 250 US bucks in nickels, dimes, and quarters, this week and every week until the end of the season. Or at least," she continues, "until he takes her advice and fucking drops dead. In the real world, out there," she looks towards the door marked fire exit, "there's no justice for gals like us on the road from cheating creeps like this piece of shit. But on the road, we got nothing but time to plot revenge. My point is, don't pay any attention to Jonathan. He's just frustrated because everybody knows Joan has him by the balls." The woman tilts her mohawk towards Jonathan, who holds 3 rolls of quarters in his clenched fist. Without dropping a roll, he carefully lifts his middle finger. "Oh, Johnny, you're a dumb shit. You know I love you. Plus, you're a hell of a good guy to know when it comes to laundromats and vending machines." Her humor cracks up most everyone scattered throughout the coffee stand. "Sod off," Jonathan returns, a guilty smile plastered across his face. "Oh, sweetie, we're in the middle of a 3-show day. I haven't the time for that much fun." She smiles down at Alice and winks. Laughter again erupts throughout the coffee stand. Alice and David sit stone-faced, not quite sure whether they should join in with the group of strangers and laugh, but are saved by Line Captain Dennis's return. He pulls the chair out from underneath the tattooed woman's boot, brushes it off with his hand, and sits down, ignoring all the laughter. I'm trying to work here, lady. Shoo! Dennis motions for the woman, who appears to be almost twice his age, to get off the table. Chill out, sunshine, the Mohawk replies. I'm just the welcoming committee. I don't bite. Now don't you go scaring these poor kids. With that, she runs her fingers affectionately through Dennis's perfectly styled hair, and she wraps her arms around his neck and plants a big kiss on his cheek, before disappearing through the coffee stand doors. For a second, there's complete silence. Just as people begin to speak again, the woman returns in a mad dash to grab her forgotten walkie-talkie. She enters quickly and exits just as fast, but not before whispering into Alice's ear. Just remember, kid, here the real world rules don't apply. June 18th, 1996. Looking back on that day now 15 years later, I still can't believe how utterly naive I was. If ever a story has a jumping off point, I guess my audition that afternoon certainly was it. In retrospect, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. A world detached from reality, love and lust, jealousy and backstabbing, alcohol and heavy drug use seemed to fuel every aspect of what was life on the road. It was the early 80s. Things were just different back then. What follows is the adventure as best I can recall it.